after I introduce you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Till that time, you'll be available on the camera. Hi Anil, thanks for your time joining this afternoon. And I request you to, a while ago we shared the PPT, open up the PPT and user point of it, we have certain questions and then you please go through them and start explaining one by one. Over to you, Anil.
Hi, Ara. Good afternoon. I'm sharing the screen right now. Is my presentation is visible? Okay. Here it is the presentation. The topic is substitution variables. Substitution variables act as a global placeholders for information that changes regularly. Now we can see how can use the substitution variables in the following artifacts. One is the data forms, runtime prompts, business rules, and the smart view. Now we can see the creation of substitution variables. Let us take that substitution variables. Now we can see how can we use the substitution variables once it's created. Like take the example as a use case one. Consider a user runs a consolidation monthly. Example, the user wants to update the variable every month. Consider June for this use case. Let me show you how to create the substitution variable using the use case one. Let me navigate into our application. Open the EPM cloud application, log in with credentials. Navigate to the variables card. Under that substitution variables. Now we can see these are all the predefined substitution variables that are created during the application creation. Now we can create the substitution variable using this use case one. Now I am creating one substitution variable by using this plus icon. By pressing this add, we can add the substitution variables that belongs to which cube we will select that and followed by the name. For this time, I'm creating the substitution variables under this name CU or year. It means current year, current month. I'm taking the current month. Like this use case, you have to create this June for this use case. I'm creating the substitution variable as current month and giving the value as June. And we will save that using this save option. While clicking this option, we will see the record has been created successfully. In this use case, we have taken the month as a substitution variable. Let's get into our presentation. In second use case, consider a user runs a consolidation yearly. Example, user wants to update the variable every year. Let's consider FY20 for this use case. Let me show you how this substitution variable under this use case can be created. Same, we will repeat the process again by clicking the add icon here. Giving the selected cube, we will give the name. I'm giving the current year. For example, for this use case, we have selected FY20 here. So I'm taking FY20 here. And click on save for saving this substitution variable. Like this, we can create this custom made substitution variable here using this procedure. Like this use case scenarios, one we have created June for one and another for FY20. We have created the substitution variables. Now let's see how can we use substitution variable in data forms by using this use case scenarios. In the use case one, let's use the account dimensions in row and use the substitution variable of year and period dimension. In the column, choose the generation 2 members of every other dimension and preview the date form with this use case. Okay, let's see how can we use the substitution variables in data form in the application part. For that, we have to navigate into the data form. I have previously defined one I'm using the predefined one form. Let's get into it and edit the layout. In the rows, for the time being, I have taken the account dimension, and in the rows section, as for the use the dimension to members. Let's take the use case scenario one. In the columns, I am taking the substitution variables for year and period, and rest of the point of view members, I am taking the default ones and the generation 2 members. Generation 2 members are nothing but under the parent dimension, what are the children that comes under the generation 2. Like that, I have taken the point of view members and the rows and columns. Under the rows, it is account taken by the followed by the total asset descendants, and second row I have taken the total liabilities and equity descendants, and for this use case scenario I am taking the substitution variables that are previously created. Click on edit. We have to navigate under the variables. Under that, we have to select the substitution variables. From there, we have selected our current month or year depending on the scenario of the dimension we have selected. We have to select this, otherwise the form will throw an error. For this year dimension, I am taking the current substitution variable as current year. I am adding it. Like this, we can see it has been taken under the quotations ampersand followed by the substitution variable name. Likewise, we can select the substitution variable for the period also. Click on edit, select the variables. Under the substitution variables, select the created previous substitution variable like current month, add it. The current month has been added to this substitution variable. Click on save. Check the preview once. See, we have defined the year FY20 and June as per the use case scenario 1. Using the substitution variables, we have included the substitution variable in the data form like this. Now coming to the use case 2, hardcore the year and year dimension periods in the another column along with the use case 1. Explain the difference between the hard-coded members and the substitution variables. Hard code is nothing but we are now mentioning it as a manually. For our difference purpose, I am taking another column. Right click on the column and add the column. Edit the column. Remove the substitution variable here and add the years that are manually defined here. I am taking that FY22 here, adding them into the column. Similarly, we will add the year, period. I am taking it as March. Removing the substitution variable. Click on OK. As we can see, this is the hard-coded one. Like we are mentioning the directly year and the period here. Click on save and preview the form once. As we can see, this one is the using the substitution variable, and this one is the hard-coded one, that is year FY22, and the period is March. Now let's preview. Let's get the presentation. Preview the data that is training the and forms and its purpose. Just create the period dimension. Okay. Let's differentiate between the substitution variables here. While previewing the form, we have previously defined the substitution variable year as FY20 and it is June for period, and hard coded one is the March. We will see the differences. Once when we change the substitution variable year and period here, it will reflect on every artifact that has been using the substitution variable. For our, and let's stick into the presentation part. We have to change from June to July. I'm changing that year period also. For suppose when changing the period from June to July and click on saving that. The record has been successfully changed. I'm changing the year also. I'm taking from FY20 to FY21. Click on save. The records has been successfully saved. Let's see the difference between the using the substitution variables and the hard coded one. Return into the forms and select the form. Click on the preview. As we can see, the changes has been happened while changing the substitution variable. Like from I have changed from year from FY20 to FY21 and from June to July. This, suppose there are many forms we have to change manually, entering into the form and changing the year. It takes time and it makes a headache for us for changing this variable. We have to, for changing these values, we have to manually enter into the form, open the form, we have to edit it, and we have to save it, and we have to close the form. It takes so much time, and therefore for this changing these values, by using the substitution values, once we have changed the global part here, it will reflect on every artifact that using the substitution variables. That's the main difference between the hard coded one and using the substitution variable. Let's return to our presentation. Now we can see the use of substitution variables in runtime prompts. Let me define what is a runtime prompt. Runtime prompts are the prompts that are occurred at the runtime using the business rule. We can see this runtime prompts. Let's see, can we see the path of substitution variables in the, as a value in the prompt? The answer is yes. If yes, can we use the prompt? Can we limit it to value and assign to the substitution variable? Yes. Let's see. Let me demonstrate how we can use the substitution variables in the runtime prompt. For visiting that runtime prompt, we have to open the rules card under the create and manage. Click on that. The separate window will be open. To define a runtime prompt, we have to navigate to the under actions. Click on the variable designer. Now, in the left side pane, we will see the EPM cloud. Expand that. Under, there are two options like global and revision app. That is an application. We can define this in two ways. That is global level and one is application level. While globally, we can define to any runtime prompt to any cube level. Suppose I am creating one. By clicking under the actions, click on new. It will open the properties panel. Enter the name. I am taking RTP underscore year. I am taking that. Using this, let's see how can we use this. Let us take it as a use case here. The requirement, how can we select only prompt that is referred to the substitution variable. Substitution consolidation to run in the March of June, which is the month passed in the substitution bill. Let's rest of the month should be counted, not be displayed the value. Okay, let's head on to the navigation part. While defining an runtime prompt, we have to give an year and type of the member, data member. Suppose we are taking that using the substitution variable here as a member by selecting the year dimension and click for activating the runtime prompt. We have to check the RTP selection here and it will highlight the sum of the members. And here there is two two options, that one is limits and the default one, and one is RTP text. Limit ones are the ones we will limit the number options in the menu for defining the RTP. It satisfies the rest of the one should not be displayed in the prompt value. Other will be skipped. So let's give the substitution variable here so that it limits the let's give the substitution variable here. And give the default value also same for that. Give the runtime prompt text. I'm selecting the please enter your year. By defining this text, we can save that. By pressing this save icon here, it will save the runtime prompt. And the RTP here has been defined. Now let's create the period also here. By similar way, click on the actions, click on the new username RTP underscore month. I'm taking the type as a member and the dimension as an period here, and click on the RTP icon here for activating that. Give the in the limit part, we will give the substitution variable that is created the year, like the current year, ampersand CURR YR. Like this, we can define current year and give the text here. Please enter the period. Click on save for saving the variable. Hit on refresh for this. As in the presentation, we see the rest of the month should not be displayed in the prompt. By using the limit function, as we mentioned here, it will limit the options that are present in the display in the runtime prompt. We'll use the limit here as it is here. Now we are adding that to the business rule. Can you show how to call substitution variable in business rule, which are the following is recommended. Hard coding in June, India, substitution between the month and article. For creating that business rule, we have to navigate to system view, expand the EPM cloud, expand the application, expand the console. Under the rules, we will see these rules are from FCCS _10 to FCCS _70. These are the rules that are created by the application, predefined when an application has been created. User can use the custom rule by selecting the rule, click on the actions, and click on the new object. Like keyboard shortcut also is Control plus Shift plus N, and select that and create the custom rule and open the custom rule once. Here it opens an editor for which we can write the rule. As we seen in the PPT, which of the following design has been recommended? Like this, we can define the business rule. Let's show me. While defining a rule, there are set like there is fixed syntax. Parenthesis. And closing is nfix. In this, we can define the hard coding means we will manually enter the value that is June, or we can use the substitution variable, and we can also select the RTP. I can show you the three syntaxes here. Like we can mention June. I'm copying it for easier purpose. For creating a substitution variable, we will give the substitution variable ampersand followed by current month. We can use the RTP here also, like giving the under the braces RTP underscore. This is the month we will here will be passed to added to here like RTP underscore month. Like this, we can define the rule in 3 ways. One is hard coding, one is using substitution variable, and one is RTP. That in these 3 methods, which is the best we can recommend it. As we can see, hard coding ones needs to be entered manually while opening and editing like that. When we give this using the substitution variable, it will take the substitution variable directly while running into the form. And by using this RTP, we will get a prompt that can be used at runtime, and we can select the year. And the best one I can suggest you is using the RTP like this. And we can comment this by using the forward slash and star. And we can define the parameters for by defining comma separated and followed by another RTP I am defining for year also. I am mentioning that. Here we have selected that year, right? I am adding it here. Click on save. As we can see, these under the variables, the RTP month and year has been saved and added into our business rule. Let's check the validation. If at all we can see the syntax errors are right now. We'll select that under the validate. It started validating, and we can see that the rule has been validated without errors. We can see there is no errors right now, and we can deploy that to our application. Like this, we can add the substitution variable and the runtime prompts in our business rules. Let's get into our application for navigation part. We have done the hard coding one, creating the substitution one, and the RTP one has been added, and have defined what the design is recommended. I have recommended using the RTP is the best for the creating the month and the substitution as per our requirement. Let's check that. When we define the business rule and RTP here, we have to once refresh the application database. Click on the actions. Click the refresh database and refresh the database once. Once we get the database refresh part is completed, we'll check that runtime prompts in the rules and the substitution variables that are defined in that RTP. Yes, the refresh part has been completed. Let's check on our rules. For checking that, we have to navigate to rules card here. Select the rule that has been given. We have selected the under the cube 2. We have defined that custom rule 2. We have to select that and run the rule once. And we can see the two rules has been added like RTPs. Please select the period and you can see the default value current year has been invoked here and the year also invoked here. While selecting the POV, we can see the years only and we can select the current year as been this has been created here and we can see that these rest of the month will be eliminated here. By using this we can check this RTP using that limit value. We can define that. Now gets into the smart view. Okay. For defining the smart view, we have to select the ad hoc analysis same design as for the client slide 4. I'm taking the form. I'm using the same form here for the smart view also. I'm removing the substitution variables here and defining into the part. Let's see the preview ones. Yes, we will define the smart view. Let's open the smart view here. Click on the Excel. Click on the blank workbook. Open the smart view here. Click on the panel. Share connections. Select the application form. Click on the ad hoc analysis. As you can see, the form has been taken. For inserting the substitution variable, we will select here and click on the while I am showing the substitution variable what has been added. This current month and current year will be added here like that, like clicking on the cell, adding the current year and followed by the period. Hit refresh. That in this way we can add the substitution variable here. As you can see in the data form, while we changing the substitution year value, it will reflect on the application level. Like this, we will add the substitution variables in the smart view and we will see the use case here. Present the following changes as the substitution variable from year from 20 to FY21, and within the use case we will report the June to Jan 21. We will change that substitution variables and we will use the use case here. Jan. And here also the same is Jan 21. Click on save. The records has been changed successfully. If you just use the refresh, click on the ambassador icon and add that one second. Here. And refresh the. We can see the changes has been occurred from year FY21 and under Jan. Like this, we can define the use case under the using of substitution variables in SmartView. And finally, in this topic, we have concluded that substitution variables can be defined in these artifacts like data forms, runtime prompts, and business rules, and SmartView. Like this, we can define the substitution variables and this uses in these artifacts. Thank you.